always looking to push the envelope. I need you up here, ready to go. Our first speaker today, Nick Ledbora, is looking to expand your minds and raise the bar to a much higher level, providing us with a compelling case to a controversial topic. Please welcome Nick as he presents Sticky Subject. Come on in. That cool? Woohoo! Nice.
Uh-oh. I don't want to hear that.
There we go.
There we go.
Before I get started, I just want to get something off my chest. I don't smoke pot. I don't smoke pot.
$1.
You don't smoke pot.
Okay. I realize the topic of this speech may be a tiny bit controversial, especially for a room like this.
Oh.
And I also realize that I'm sitting in front of a very diverse crowd of professionals right now, many of whom may not share the same political, personal, moral values that I hold. And that's okay. The objective of this speech isn't necessarily to turn you guys into Cheech Marin, by the end of my 5 to 7 minutes, but rather to at least give you or share some of my unconventional ideas as it relates to the topic of legalization of marijuana. Recent Gallup polls would suggest that 53% of Americans actually have favored the dark side and have turned over to where they actually agree with the legalization of marijuana. Heck, every president that I can think of from childhood on has at least, even before childhood, has at least agreed to some form of marijuana consumption. Jimmy Carter had pot parties at the White House. President Barack Obama actually admits to blazing because he's so hip. I personally, in college, experimented with marijuana, but like former President Bill Clinton, I never inhaled. All right, on to some business. I could have picked hundreds of topics to make a case for the legalization of marijuana. However, for the purposes of this presentation, 3 simple ones stand out that best demonstrate the merits. Number 1, the dangers, or what I like to call the mythical dangers of marijuana. Number 2, the cost-benefit analysis for the war on drugs, but not necessarily the war on drugs, specifically the war against weed. Number 3, our fine federal government and their tremendous track record of always making the right decisions for everything. So, breaking into number 1, how dangerous really is this organic plant? I mean, really, how dangerous is it? I found a highly scientific study on Facebook. I'm pretty sure that's an oxymoron. But it demonstrates the before and after effects of folks that have used illegal substances. So let's just dig right in. Okay. Before and after heroin. I've always been told a picture's worth 1,000 words. It's illegal, I get it. Nothing more to be said.
Oh.
Wow. You know what? I'm not even going to comment on this one right here. It's scary.
Yeah.
So let's dig right in. It's just about like every single marijuana smoker that I've run across throughout the course of my life. They're harmless. But honestly, I don't mean to make fun of people who have addiction problems and really dig in on that level, but more to point out the fact that it's ludicrous to me to understand how people can get incarcerated for a substance like this and using a plant, on this level. Having just mentioned incarceration, it actually brings me through to my next point. There's a case to be made for the benefit and the legalization of marijuana. And in fact, every 42 seconds, a marijuana user or a marijuana arrest occurs in the United States. So, assuming I finish my speech in time, that's going to be 10 poor souls locked up in the clink by the end of this deal. Do you guys have any idea at all, what the U.S. spends defending the war against weed on an annual basis?
No.
Too much.
$27 billion it costs us taxpayers on an annual basis. $27 billion with a B. With a $16 trillion plus national debt our country covers right now, to me, a $20 billion plus cut, as well as a brand new revenue stream of potentially another $10 billion through tax revenue, doesn't sound like such a bad idea from a number standpoint. The challenge we all have is our illustrious government officials don't necessarily always make decisions in the best interest of our constituents, and they don't always make common sense decisions based on numbers, in my opinion at least. Which is an excellent segue bringing me into the third and final reason that I feel that marijuana should be legalized. Questioning our government's track record. I personally question everything that's fed to me by our government, and hopefully that doesn't make me too bad a person. Exactly. Civil rights. Have you ever found a situation where the government has governed unjustly or made mistakes? I think all of us have. Civil rights, yes. The times before civil rights, of course. Number two, prohibition. Prohibition, in fact, only made moms stronger and more money at that time. Number three, suffrage and women's rights. That may be debatable, but no. I mean, honestly. But honestly.
Take them down?
Could you imagine this country today if some of those items had not changed? What kind of world would we live in right now? We certainly wouldn't all be sitting in the same room together. I can guarantee you that. And for me, chicken wings without a Bud Light is pretty much un-American. So I'm asking, is it possible that the federal government has made another mistake as it comes or relates to this topic? We've covered the dangers and lack of danger of marijuana use. We've discussed the potential dollar benefit and value of the legalization and regulation, and we've also highlighted the times in history where our government has made mistakes. I'm asking you to put your preconceived or biases on this subject aside and consider the facts I discussed today. In the event that this topic ever approaches itself to where to poll for a vote, consider the speech and go green. Thank you.